Welcome to the Poker Cannonball.
All right, our first tournament at Hollywood Casino, and we come away top 4, $2,280 on October 30th, and we're on to Kentucky. Woohoo! $2,280 in cash. Putting a dent in all of our expenses so far. Ohio, we barely knew ya. Signed 71 south to Cincinnati. We'll cross the border and hop into Kentucky. I think it's mostly 71 down to the card room. So we'll head on out and we'll see how we do. We're here in Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. I'd really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy this video. We can't put our plastic plate in the microwave, so we've got the pancakes in there on some napkins, eggs in the mug, and let's warm these guys up. Pancakes, eggs, quick little brunch before we head out on the road to Kentucky. This is sort of the drive video to Kentucky, and it's going to be very quick. Storms, rain. It's crazy windy right now. Just driving through trash. Saw a mattress on the side of the road that blew off the top of someone's car. So we're going to focus on driving and getting there. Who knew that driving across the country would come with such peril? All right. Just after 2 o'clock, we're trying to get to the 6 o'clock Club JAQK in Louisville, Kentucky. I was looking ahead to Missouri. Missouri's a little rough. If we don't get to Missouri fast or slow, we could get stuck in Missouri, which I think I sort of remembered that. This tournament's tomorrow in Missouri, and then Saturday in Missouri, and then we're off till like Tuesday or Wednesday. So there's another big gap. So a lot of pressure on for Club JAQK. It's spelled J-A-Q-K, so I think you pronounce that Jack. I gotta call them and just run through how I register and everything. I know Kentucky might be more of a social club, but it's listed in Poker Atlas. There's 4 tournaments tonight. I was actually gonna assess which one to do, but then Club JAQK was the closest. We got storms, we're leaving late. We're focusing on getting to the fastest, closest tournament we can. Let's focus on it. But there's a little bit of extra pressure. If we don't do well tonight, which is very possible, you can't do Ohio in one tournament at each time, then we just may be stuck here for a little bit in Kentucky and Missouri, and we'll just have to come to terms with the fact that we always budgeted a bunch of time to make this whole thing happen. All right, we got some more people on the side of the road. There is a lot going on here. So that's it for me. This is the drive-in video to Club JAQK. We're gonna focus on driving. I think the sky is gonna open up and rain soon, and then we really need to keep our eyes on the road. So, and this is the storm we are headed into. Those clouds look a little bit ominous. I looked up some of the weather ahead and it said, chance of rain, 100%. Thursday, October 31st. Happy Halloween. 6 o'clock Club JAQK, Louisville, Kentucky. Card room, $50 to enter, $10 more for the dealer, $5 more for the mystery hand, $5 membership fee, $50,000 in chips, 15-minute levels. Obligatory 300, 600, 600. Early on at Club JAQK, the first hour is the rebuy period. Trying to make moves early on. Under the gun +1, call. Low jack, call. Button, call. Small blind, 3x raise to 1800. I'm in the big blind. Look down at pocket sevens. Now again, it's rebuy period, hand shuffle, so we don't have that many hands. This tournament is cheap. I want to do everything I can to double up. This is good enough. I don't think that long. I push all in with my pocket sevens. We've already got a pot that's been built up. All in 50,000. Fold, 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 back around to the small blind. Small blind doesn't think that long either. Small blind, all in. We both relatively have the same amount of chips. The small blind has me slightly covered. We flip them over. I show my pocket sevens. Small blind with ace, king off is essentially a flip here. So flippity floppity. 10 of hearts, 8 of diamonds, queen of clubs. Nice. We dodge the ace and the king. Here's the turn. King of clubs. Okay, that is the opposite of nice. That's the card we didn't need. The river, 8 of hearts. We are out, and I'm off to rebuy. We are out, and I'm off to rebuy. Comment below, how do you feel about playing poker in membership card clubs? Obligatory 500, 1,000, 1,000. No more rebuys. We are in the freeze out portion of the night. I love freeze outs. Let's play cards. Under the gun calls 1,000. Middle position calls 1,000. Hijack, raise it up, 2,200. Now, I've been playing so aggressive during the first hour of the tournament, during the rebuy period, that I still have in my head, if I have good cards, we are raising. Let's go. I look down in the cutoff with ace, queen off. Nice. I am very excited to go after this pot. Raise it up, 7,000. The blinds fold, under the gun folds, middle position folds, back to the hijack, and the hijack goes all in 75,000. He did not think that long. He's played a few hands, but not that many. This is one of the first big raises I've seen him make. We are both, if I go all in playing for our tournament life, I don't want to go out just after the rebuy period ended. I still have a lot of chips. I mean, I did bet 7,000, but if I fold, I still have a lot of chips to play with. This guy's a little older. He's on the conservative side. I read him as conservative. I debate. I think. I go, ugh. And I fold my ace queen. As I fold, I flip over my ace. The hijack nice enough to also flip over an ace. What does that mean? Did he have my queen kicker beat or not? Later, I track him down. He said the other card was a king, and I believe him. So we think we made the right fold there. Obligatory 1,000, 2,000, 2,000. Under the gun calls 2,000. Under the gun +1 also calls. I am in the small blind with 9-6 suited. I complete, and the big blind checks. Flippity floppity. Ace of hearts, 9 of diamonds, 3 of clubs. We hit middle pair, backdoor flush draw. The way this is played, does anyone really have an ace here? We are first to act. I decide, let's bet, make it 6,000. Fold, fold, fold. All right, that was quick. We take down the pot. Four minutes to go in the break. We grab some Subway. We're at Walmart. We grab some bananas. We got our Halloween outfit on. We got to get our receipt checked and run back over here. We're just even, and now the blinds are crazy high. We'll see how we do. Obligatory 3,000, 6,000, 6,000. We're playing six-handed. Under the gun +1 calls. The button calls. Small blind completes. I am in the big blind with 2 black 7s. There's so much money in the pot already, and we only have 67,000 in chips. The blinds are getting pretty big versus our stack. We decide, let's go all in. Let's collect all these mini calls. That is not how it exactly works. Under the gun +1 looks at my bet and decides to call. He calls my all in for 67,000. Now he's the chip leader, started with like 150,000 in chips. So he has a lot of chips. He has everyone covered. I guess it makes sense for him to make the call. I did not exactly want this call. Now the button starts agonizing. There's still a lot of chips for him to make the call. He is likely thinking about the possibility of a triple up. He starts with like 95,000 in chips, so he makes the call for 67,000. Still has 28,000 in chips behind. Small blind folds. So it's 3 of us in this. I can't show my hand yet because we still have 2 active players in the hand. I am the shortest stack. We'll see. I don't like the feeling of 2 callers. Yuck. Flippity floppity. 7, 5, 10. Whoa, this flop is awesome. We picked a great time to go in with pocket 7s. We hit a set of 7s. Now I am dreaming of a triple up. This would be fantastic. I don't know what these other people have though. Under the gun +1 looks at the flop and goes all in. Now I'm getting a little worried. Why did under the gun +1 just go all in? He can't have a set beat, right? Okay, over to the button. The button has 28,000 left to make the call. But this is the button's tournament life. The button starts agonizing. Oh, he takes his time. He's taking minutes and minutes trying to figure out what to do. We say, take your time. Under the gun +1 has seen the flop and gone all in. I already went all in. I guess the button has a lot of chips in the pot already. He decides to make the call. Flip him over. What do these people have? I show my 7s. Hopefully my set of 7s are as strong as I think. Under the gun +1, pocket 9s. Okay, a big pair with this board, I guess. The button, ace queen off. All right, we are in good shape. Here's the turn. 8 of diamonds, still good for us. The river, 2 of diamonds, and we triple up all right. Under the gun +1 and his 9s knock out the button. He picks up the side pot, and we are down to 5 players left to get paid. Obligatory 3,000, 6,000, 6,000. Playing 5-handed. Under the gun calls the 6,000. I'm on the button with Queen Jack off. I do have a big stack here. Seems like a good time to use our big stack to put pressure on our opponents. Raise it up, 20,000. Now I started with 200,000 in chips. My opponent has 130,000 in chips. Under the gun makes the call. Flippity floppity. Ace, king, 2. We totally miss. All right, I guess we have an opportunity at a straight along with our ace and our king in the mix. Under the gun checks. The whole reason we raise this now means that aces and kings are in our range. We bet 35,000. And that bet, now the under the gun player, older, conservative, he doesn't really think that much. He just folds and we pick up a nice pot. Obligatory 5,000, 15,000, 15,000. The blinds are getting way up there. There aren't that many chips in play. At least we've got a decent stack. The button, this guy named Mike to my right, calls the 15,000. He started the hand with like 150,000 in chips. I am in the small blind, and I've got king, queen off. We are playing shorthanded at the table, like 5 of us. King, queen, that'll work. I shove all in for 200,000. Now it goes back to the button. And extremely quickly, Mike calls. And that speedy of a call is not good. He puts all 150,000 in and flip them over. I show king, queen off. And Mike flips over ace, queen off. Oh, that is very, very bad. He definitely trapped me on that one. No, I probably didn't need to go all in. Oh. Flippity floppity. 5, queen, 8. Well, we hit our queen, but he hits his queen. That's really no help. The turn. Ace of clubs. All right, this is very, very bad. The river, 2 of diamonds. And at least we had Mike covered to start the hand. We are down to 50,000 in chips, and the blinds are 5,000, 15,000, 15,000. We are in deep, deep doo-doo. Obligatory 10,000, 20,000, 20,000. The blinds are still way up there. Action folds around to me. I'm in the small blind with Jack 4 off. Now, I think normally you're supposed to fold this hand almost no matter what in this position. But there's only 2 players left in the hand. I have a good feeling about these cards. Raise it up, 40,000. My opponent in the big blind to the left, he makes the call. He calls the 40,000, and we are on to a flop. Flippity floppity. King of hearts, queen of diamonds, 8 of clubs. We totally miss. We do not hit that flop. Now, he just called. He couldn't have a king, right? I raised. I started with 220,000. He started with 180,000. Pretty close in chip stacks. I take a moment, but maybe I'm still going a little too fast. I push all in with my Jack 4. Now the guy to my left, the big blind Johnny, he takes his time. He's a good player. I wanted a quick fold, and he is thinking. Now he's thinking, which means I think my read that he doesn't have a king is right. But it looks like he wants to make the call. Like, as he's thinking with his chips in hand, like he's going to call. There are no thoughts on his face of folding. And I am agonizing because I need him to fold. If I wanted to make a move, I had to go all in. I had to put the pressure on. But we have nothing. We really need a fold here. I am just looking straight down. I'm not talking. I'm not making a move. And he keeps thinking. He's never coming close to folding. Should I start talking here? Would that help? Should I somehow see if speech play can do something? I just do my normal routine. I just look down. After thinking, Johnny makes the call. I meekly flip over my Jack 4. Ugh. He shows Queen 9 for middle pair. And that is not good. Turn. 9 of spades. Now he's got 2 pair. The river, 3 of clubs. And we just get destroyed in this hand. We have dusted off all but 40,000 of our chips. Pure bluff, out of position. Why did I even play this hand? What was I doing? All right, this is not my day. I've gone way up, way down. Ugh, we are essentially down to nothing. Small blind up against the big blind. I've got Jack 4 nothing. I raised the big blind. It was 10, 20, 20. I raised a 40. The big blind called, and the flop comes out. King, queen, rag. He didn't have the king. I went all in. I had him covered. He made the call with queens. He had queens, and he knew I was bluffing. Obligatory 15,000, 30,000, 30,000. We are playing 4-handed. I have worked my way up. The blinds are so high. As long as you get a couple lucky double ups, you're back in it. Mike, to my right, is under the gun. He's also the cutoff, and he goes all in for 200,000. I am on the button. I've got Mike covered. I look down at ace-8 off. I still have the blinds after me, but this is a huge bet from Mike. And earlier he did that whole sneaky call when he had a really strong hand and got me to go all in. And then he ended up having the stronger hand. Now he's going all in and putting the pressure on me. What does he have? These blinds are super high, and we're all trying to steal pots when we have anything decent. I've seen this guy be aggressive multiple times. We have an ace. It's only four-handed. I know the charts say ace-8 off is probably a fold. I debate, and I make the call. Flip him over. He shows queen-jack off, and I flip over ace-8 off. Yikes, we're barely ahead. I would have preferred maybe ace and a worse kicker. Well, we've got him covered at least. Flippity-floppity. 10 of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades. Nice that we hit our 8. Doesn't really change things. He still needs a queen or a jack. The turn, king of clubs. Whoa! That face guard scared me to death. Now Mike needs an ace, a queen, a jack, a 9. He's got some outs. The river, 10 of spades. Phew, that card is safe. What a big hand. We are now chip leader, down to 3 players, and we will take it. Obligatory 15,000, 30,000, 30,000. We are playing three-handed. I am the chip leader. 2 big stacks and 1 very small stack. So the larger stack's just trying to focus on the small stack and knock him out. In this hand, the small stack is the button. He goes all in for 70,000. I am the small blind. I have ace-jack off. Very strong hand to three-handed. My turn to do the dirty work. I call the all-in. I call 70,000. The big blind folds, and we flip them over. I've got ace-jack off. My opponent, 8-6 suited. He pretty much might have had to go in with almost any 2 cards. Flippity-floppity. 9 of clubs, 4 of diamonds, king of hearts. So far, so good. The turn, 4 of hearts. The river, 10 of spades. And we knock out the small stack to get paid, and we cash. Check off Kentucky. Achievement unlocked. The Halloween nightly, we were wearing our Jason Halloween, and we just cashed a Club JAQK here in Kentucky. Again, happy Halloween. Sometimes luck is on your side. I don't know. This one's not fair. This one, the cards helped me out. I was chip leader with 4 to go, 12 entries. This term only paid 600. I was 3 of the entries because I kept trying to double up, and I just gave people chips. We got it done. These people were so fun. None of them will be on camera. My buddy's coming out here to smoke, I think. We got to get the door for him. But the tournament went very well, and we're off to St. Louis now. So off to St. Louis. It's like a 4.5 hour drive, so we're gonna see how far we can drive, and then if we can make it all the way to the casino, that'd be great. Then we can just sleep in until the 1 o'clock tournament. It's Central Time, so we're gaining an hour. I feel very Phileas Foggish. We're gonna gain an hour in this drive, so that'll help. So the tournament's really 2 o'clock Eastern. But what a Halloween. There we are, leaving Club JAQK. You can see me in the reflection. Here on Halloween. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. How are we cashing in Ohio in 1 try and Kentucky in 1 try? Now we got 3 tries in St. Louis. So if we get stuck in St. Louis, that's gonna suck, or Missouri. So We're driving to Missouri. There's no time to rest. We'll talk in the car. There's some complications. Maybe if you're driving across the country and you're going to do this whole every state as fast as possible, you should research what tricky borders there are. All right, we won in Kentucky again faster than we thought, all right? We're rocking and rolling. After smoke coming out of our ears in New York State, we are jumping for joy here after Columbus, Kentucky, back-to-back nights. I mean, what? It's 3 nights in a row. Pennsylvania, Wind Creek, Bethlehem. Hollywood Casino, Columbus. And now Club JAQK in Louisville, Kentucky, right next to the Walmart in the strip mall. Woohoo! Back-to-back-to-back nights. But we have no rest. No rest. What's going on? Okay. So there's a complication. It's not easy to drive from Kentucky to Missouri. They only touch at a sliver. You know what? There's no roads that go between Kentucky and Missouri. So that's a problem. So we got to decide, are we driving into Illinois? We're definitely skipping Indiana. We're driving through Kentucky to skip Indiana. So we got 2 choices. One, suck it up and go to Illinois and then to Missouri. We'd have tons of time. Remember, if we don't make it tomorrow and Saturday, we are off in Missouri till Wednesday. And we'd have to start looking. I have not researched Tennessee and Arkansas. I don't think there's tournaments. I think I ignored that sort of southern route. I think it would be Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, New Mexico. That would be the 10-stater. All right, so we'll have to figure that out. This is like a true amazing race moment. You've got multiple options and you've got to decide what to do. There is a way to cross from Kentucky to Missouri. There's a ferry. Great news. Ferry only runs during the day. All right, no problem. We'll stay in a hotel tonight near the ferry. We're good to go. But no. Their website's rinky-dinky. But the website says, check the Facebook page. We checked the Facebook page for the ferry between Kentucky and Missouri. The only way to get across directly between those 2 states, you got to cross the Mississippi River. There's a problem. They're closed Tuesday, Wednesday. It's not Tuesday, Wednesday. They are closed this week on Thursday, October 31st. Why? They say the water was low. And if you look at the Facebook page, throughout October 2024, the water's been low like crazy. Ferry closed, water low. Ferry closed, water low. Ferry closed, water low. Now, if you had family and you wanted to do Halloween with your family, would you close the ferry? I might close the ferry and say the water was low. We can cross our fingers that they closed the ferry because of Halloween. It probably was low. Again, the ferry's been closed a lot in October. But it was raining on the way to Kentucky. And those storms don't come out of nowhere. That storm had to cross the Mississippi. It was a lot of rain. We're going to cross our... It's still wet here. I'm on I-65. It is still wet as we try and get across the Kentucky to Hickman, Kentucky. It's like 65 to the Western Kentucky Expressway. But this is an amazing race moment. If the ferry is closed, we should have gone straight to Illinois right away and not driven 4.5 hours through Kentucky. And I got to stop vlogging. I got to work on a hotel. It's almost 11:45, and it's way easier to get hotels before midnight. I might have to stop the car and just focus on hotels. But we're going to roll the dice. The rain, that's got to raise the water level. Mark Twain, where are you? Is there enough water in the Mississippi? Hopefully the rain rose the level. Hopefully they just closed for Halloween and sneakily said low water. And hopefully daylight comes, we check the Facebook page, and we can get across our bucket of bolts Toyota Camry across the ferry and go direct to Missouri. Woohoo! It's late at night in Mayfield, Kentucky. The Southern Comfort Suites. I think we might be in the good old master suite here. But no one had booked it till we did. So we got a little bar area over here, the kitchen. No smoking, they're very serious about that, which, no problem. We got a nice little master bathroom in here too. So we'll take it. It is late at night and we gotta get to sleep, so good night everybody. From Mayfield, Kentucky. At the end of each video, I include a P&L tracker of how I'm doing on the trip. Check that out. Now let's talk to poker coach Alex Fitzgerald. Alex, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. And if you could take a moment to maybe introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hey, my name is Alexander Fitzgerald. I go by the cheerful moniker of Assassinato, and I've been a professional poker player and professional poker coach for about 20 years now, just shy of that.
And I first sort of encountered your sort of online courses about coaching, and I've seen them in several different spots, and I think you use some of those, so it's a pleasure to have you join us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to hear that.
So one thing that I'm doing is sort of a travel vlog playing poker. Can you talk a little bit about how you first got involved in the poker world?
Sure. So the first time I started playing poker really seriously, I was about 15 years old. I was in my high school, and some kids were just playing for dollar bills in the lunchroom. Actually, not even in the lunchroom. I can't remember where we were, but we were all sitting on the floor. And my father's a big chess guy, a big poker guy. So I never got into chess. I got bored by it growing up, but I played poker with my dad a lot growing up, and I learned the basics, what he would do, which was be careful, be tight, be aggressive. And I started playing against these kids and I realized, hey, they don't actually know what they're doing here. So I'd win a dollar here, a dollar there. Obviously not too much money because it was all high school kids, but it meant a lot to me at that time because I was a little bit more broke than the other kids in the school. So when I could do things like buy comics or buy metal CDs, I thought it was pretty cool. So I kept up with poker.
And then, as someone who's heard some of your accounts and your career, it seems like along your poker journey, you've done some traveling.
Sure. So I started out playing poker more seriously in the Seattle area. And then after a while, I heard that there were softer games in other places. And sometimes that was true and sometimes it wasn't. But especially once I started getting into cash games, I was really into tournaments initially when I was a teenager. And then at some point, I think when I was 19, I started realizing you really got to learn how to play cash games if you just want a little bit more stability in this game. So that took me to South Korea, Latin America. I spent nearly a decade in Latin America. I was in Europe for years, not years, but actually maybe. And I did play on the European Poker Tour. That was pretty fun. I got to final table, just barely final table, European Poker Tour San Remo. I got to final table WPT Prague. So didn't get to do much once I was at the final tables, but I did get to play those final tables. So that was pretty neat. And yeah, that would be, I spent about 10 years outside of the United States. It was a pretty good experience. It teaches you a lot being on the road.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is how would you compare, I guess, US poker, South Korea poker, Latin America poker, South America poker, European poker? those different locations and poker vibes?
That's a fantastic question. Actually, people don't ask me that one that much, but yeah, that's something that really should be talked about. So the big thing whenever you're in a new market is to find out what game people came from. So in the United States, there's a lot of people who play poker very casually because people in the United States grow up playing poker with their families at family reunions and whatnot. So poker is seen as this casual thing you do with buddies while you drink beer in college. That's not true in a lot of the world. So a lot of the people I played with in Europe and a lot of the guys who taught me a bunch about the game, they came from the chess world. So in chess, to attack is to win, to react is to lose. So they had a more attacking style game. And if I'm being perfectly frank, I like how a lot of Europeans play compared to some of the times here in the United States, we can be a little bit more lackadaisical. And I really like how they would get really technical with it in Europe. Now, the one thing I do like about American players is if you're looking for the old gunslingers, there's a lot of them still in the card rooms here. The guys who they can be playing a five-way pod and they can figure out what you have and they can really dial in just from 20, 30 years in the card room. And they're really good with the physical tells, maybe not the technical know-how, and that really goes a long way. So in South Korea, a lot of the folks came from StarCraft, so they just would spam bets in all the time. It was just three bet, four bet, five bet nonstop. And you could corral it, but you really had to be awake when you were playing with them. And in Latin America, it was getting caught bluffing wasn't seen as a social faux pas. Nobody would really give you a hard time if you got caught bluffing. In fact, it was seen as part of the fun, kind of like the soccer culture came from that. I guess, they liked the passion. So you saw people much more free about their bluffs, much more willing to do big bluffs, and that made them a little harder to handle. But it was also still a fairly casual game for a lot of folks in Latin America. So you would find smaller pockets where people were more playing for fun. But yeah, the bluff was very much alive in South America.
Very interesting. I have been traveling across the country playing poker, and I set up a little game for myself, which is go from New York to LA, and you have to cash in a tournament before you're able to move on to the next state.
All right.
And so, you may have heard of flag hunters who try and do this country by country, but this is sort of my American version.
Yeah.
And I've gotten the bug, so far, we're in Kentucky and just cashed in Kentucky and gone New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky. But I've sort of gotten the bug now that I've come off a couple successful tournaments and I'm eyeing, do I do something similar in Europe and go from the Black Sea to London or something? So we'll see if I venture outside of the US confines.
Best of luck. That's awesome.
And the uh, the other interesting thing is that along the way in playing these tournaments, I have taken some of your courses and I found it very educational, especially in what I think are low stakes poker tournaments. I'm just trying to figure out whatever tournament I can find and check the box in that state. Can you talk a little bit about, what you need to do in low stakes poker tournaments versus maybe the higher end that I watch on TV?
Excellent question. So in lower stakes poker tournaments, so some of the softest action you'll get in the United States is in the United States, but you do have to be ready for it. So most of the pots you're going to play in the United States are going to be multi-way in nature. And the question becomes how exploitative you want to be in those multi-way pots. So many of the people you're going to play against when you play in smaller markets in the United States really struggle with folding, say, a second pair or a top pair in a multi-way pot. So theoretically, most of your bets should be pretty small in multi-way pots if you're playing against good players, because let's say you flop a set and you bet 70, 80% pot. That might not be the greatest idea versus a really good thinking player because they might be sitting there with top pair third kicker going, well, hold on a second. This person just fired 80% pot into four players. That's probably top pair, top kicker, or better, or just a huge combo draw. I'm doing really poorly against that. Oh boy, I better fold here. 99% of your opponents are not going to be able to have that chain of thought. So what's going to happen is a lot of the times they'll have top pair any kicker and sometimes second pair. And even if you bet large, they're just not going to be able to find a fold because they every live poker player believes that they somehow run worse than everybody else. And the truth behind that is just poker is a very slow game live. So when you've been waiting 24 minutes, 41 minutes to play a hand, if you can imagine trying to meditate while a poker room is hissing around you, that would be really difficult. And that's essentially what people have been doing. So they're frustrated and they're impatient, and then they flop a flush draw or they flop a second pair and they flop a top pair and they get very attached to the hand. So if you bet larger with your solid holdings, they're not going to want to fold. So I actually had a hand like this a couple months back. The board came ace 10 9, two clubs. I had a set of tens. I just bet 80% pot because there were two players in the pot that just hated folding, period. And one got it all in with a six high flush draw. The other called an all in with an eight high flush draw. I can't remember how it worked out, but I ended up scooping a pretty big pot. So the overcommitment from top pairs and second pairs and over pairs in multi-way pots allow you to have pretty incredible implied odds at the beginning of the tournament. And then later on in the tournament, there's a lot of people that call out of the big blind with any two cards, call the flop bet with just any backdoor, any pair, call the turn bet with pretty much any pair. Maybe they'll fold some third pairs. And then on the river, when you jam, they go, I have no idea what to do here. And oh, wow, this is the only $1,200 tournament I'm playing this year. I don't really know if I want to stack off with a top pair and a five kicker. And what that means is if they're going to fold that hand by the river, the top pair, and that's pretty much the best hand they have because they're raising two pair sets earlier in the hand, that means they're just folding pretty much everything by the river. So you can really get a lot of value off of those triple barrel bluffs.
And I appreciate the advice there. How did you get into coaching?
I got into coaching around, I just got to a certain point where I certainly love tournament poker and I had a lot of great opportunities in that format, but I learned that, hey, if you want to stay in this game, you have to diversify. A lot of poker pros have other things that they do on the side. It's actually pretty rare to find a poker pro who just plays poker 60 hours a week. So, some guys rent out Airbnb, some guys rent out warehouses, some guys have like tour guide companies. So, it runs the gamut. The thing that I wanted to do was coach because I found when I had to organize my thoughts and teach it to someone else, it made me better at what I was doing. Probably the best way to improve at anything is try to teach it to someone else because it will expose the gaps in your knowledge and they'll ask great questions if you get to talk to enough poker players. So I'd say about 15 years ago, I got to the point where I said, listen, I need to stabilize just a little bit. And so I started playing more cash. I started playing more full ring cash at that time, was still fairly lucrative. And I started coaching most mornings because there's not that many poker games going on in the morning. So it seemed like a good way to wake up. And it helps me too if I get to talk to a young, hungry up and comer for an hour and a half, 2 hours about the game right in the morning. That certainly wakes me up and gets me ready to play later. So I very much enjoyed the process over the last 15 years.
And how do people find out more about what you're doing coaching?
If you'd like to get in touch with me about poker coaching or anything, really go to pokerheadrush.com. If you sign up for my newsletter, it's a daily free strategic newsletter. It costs nothing to sign up for. You can unsubscribe at any time and you'll get 3 free training products just for signing up. One will teach you how to 3-bet people. That's kind of a classic pack. It's a little older. The 2 newer ones will show you how to triple barrel bluff and how to play ace king when it misses the flop. And yeah, there's my contact information on pokerheadrush.com and you can check out my books as well.
Well, I appreciate it. When I was sort of searching for coaching and, seeing your newsletter, there was one particular course, maybe a little older, which was all in one class. And I was like, if I can just perfect whatever Alex is saying, and keep listening to the same 5 hours over and over again, it'll help me. And it sort of has helped start me on the journey. So I appreciate the advice you've given to me along the way. And one thing that I have found in your coursework is I think you have sort of a unique style. Like occasionally you'll, I feel like, almost be like making sure that I'm paying attention or making sure I am listening to important items that I need to remember at the poker table. Can you talk about what's gone into your teaching methods, what's your coaching style, and how you approach it?
Oh, that's a really good question. So generally, what I learned was when I was a kid, I was really into Pee Wee football. Eventually, I was a lineman. I eventually wasn't big enough to do that. So, and I did, I played football from the time I was like 5 or 6 up until the beginning of high school. And the football coaches would repeat things just over and over and over and over again to the point where you could slap me awake at 3 in the morning. I could repeat it to you. And I noticed a lot of the time when people were learning about poker, they would they would get the overall concept, but when everything goes to hell, you're actually not going to remember that much. And that's something that Bill Belichick believes in. That's something that John Wooden believes in. If you study how John Wooden taught college basketball, 85% of the practice was passing because better passing means less turnovers and it means better shot selection, which means more points. So I was always trying to condense things into questions that I could ask people again and again and again until they got to the point where they could hear my voice in their head, and that would lead them to better solutions. So whenever you're betting and somebody calls you and it's a coordinated board, I'd always ask, okay, what hands does he not have here? And I'd ask that again and again and again because it became really important to start slicing off hands from your opponent's range. Okay, that's not a set, that's not a two pair, that's not this. The more hands you get rid of, the better you know where they're at. And, telling people always be betting or raising. Is this a value bet or bluff? What hands call or fold? How often will there be another bet? What am I doing to that? Does he do that with X? X is the best hand that should be. Is that a draw? These kind of things, if you repeat them throughout your head, throughout the entire game, it's going to lead you to better solutions versus if your brain just gets scrambled in the 15, 20 seconds you have to think about a solution, you're not going to get very far.
And in this world where you talk about sports, the other thing that's impacting sports quite a bit is analytics. How do you think that analytics plays into what we've seen in sports and now the poker world?
So I think it's really interesting to look at the baseball world when it comes to analytics. So when analytics first came into baseball, there was some teams that just went with the wholesale adoption. And then eventually over the years, the other team said, listen, we understand what the numbers are. We understand that 97% of the time he doesn't swing on a 3-0 pitch. But we also know from being baseball men that this kid's jumping out of his shoes in the World Series. So he's probably going to swing on this pitch. So we have to override the numbers right now. So I think we're starting to get to that point in poker where it's really fun to look at the GTO solutions for, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing versus this range. Okay, let's actually adjust this range to what's more accurate based on what we can find in databases and find the exploit that is pertinent in this situation. But the one thing about averages is, uh, so let's say you have 50 players that are playing like 10% of the hands, and you have 50 players that are playing 40% of the hands. The average is going to be in between those two players, and it's literally going to describe no player. So you do have to be very careful about how much you make the numbers just everything about your production, how much you take in the numbers. So I would say generally it's a really good guide post as to especially a lot of the online situations where all you have to go off of are numbers. That's something that's going to be really helpful, but there's still room for that maverick, that gunslinger we were talking about earlier, who can watch how the guy checks out of the big blind and notice that looks a little different than how he checked earlier when he had it. And maybe this time he's indicating he doesn't have the best hands in his range. So while maybe this wouldn't be the perfect bluffing hand for a big bluff, maybe this is the time to try that out.
Will you be at the World Series this year? What's your take on Vegas and poker?
So I try to get to Vegas as much as I can. As Vegas gets more expensive and as it's a really difficult calculation for me. So like during the World Series, that's the busiest time for coaching. Everybody wants to get coaching lessons around the World Series. So I actually if I'm playing on a specific day, I'm missing out on lessons. So that is lost income. So I usually have to make my trips a little bit shorter than I would like. A few years back, I did do 6 weeks in Vegas. I had a lot of fun. I have a blast. I still love playing poker, but it really stunk not to be able to coach as much as I'd like, just to stay diversified and stable for my family and whatnot. So the goal is always 1 week or 2 weeks out there generally. And I still love Vegas. I think Vegas is an incredible town. I love it every time I'm out there.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you checking in. Once again, how do people find you on the web?
Go to my website, pokerheadrush.com. That website, one more time, pokerheadrush.com, if you want more training content, just like the stuff we were talking about today.
Alex, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Now let's close with the profit and loss tracker, another win in the books. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, helps me make more videos like this. I really appreciate it.